It is finally time to get these guys out of the garage, get them out to the grow out pens. So let's get on it. Hey guys, welcome back to another Slightly Rednecked video. Again, my name's Chris, and if you're new to this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. And I'm finally getting to move these guys from the garage, the little Quail, out to the brooder box. They're about 3 weeks old, roughly. I would have done it a couple of days ago, but I kind of held off because we got our first frost. It came a little bit early this year. Our average first frost date is October 15th, so it was just a couple of days early. I think it was on the 10th, something like that. And I didn't want to move them out. It got down to about 32 degrees. That's a little bit chilly. They hadn't been exposed to that. I could have probably moved them out. They probably would have been okay. They've been without heat for a while in the garage, but it hasn't really gotten down below like 55 degrees, 50 degrees in there. So I didn't want to move them out there, take a chance of, shocking them too bad or anything like that. But the frost is gone. We're up to 57 degrees right now. Forecast over the next couple of days says, it's going to get up to 70 today. It's not going to get down below about 45 over the next couple of days and usually stay up in the mid 50s. So it's a good time to go ahead and move them out. They should do just fine. So that's what we're doing today. That's what we're getting on. And when I say grow out pens, really all I'm going to be doing is throwing them in with the regular birds there and letting them grow out with the older birds. Tell you what, these guys are probably a little too big to be all in this brooder all by themselves, but they're doing all right. Couldn't have waited much longer though. There's not a whole lot that I do to kind of prepare them for moving outside. Take the heat lamps off of them. Really, I keep them about 100 degrees in the brooder box for, the first week. And then I start dropping it about 5-10 degrees every, 4 or 5 days until they're off the heat lamps completely. And then try to let them acclimate a little bit to that. The only other thing that I do is I haven't given them any water since yesterday. I let them run out of water. And the reason for that is the water cups that I use, they don't stay full of water all the time. So I need to kind of train them to the water cups. I want them to be good and thirsty when they go in this grow out pen. And I'll reach in and I'll fill up the water cups here real quick, get them full of water. So the birds are thirsty. They go looking for water. They find them. They start drinking from the water cups, and then they're pretty much trained to the water cups. So I'm gonna go ahead and reach in and fill those up first, and then we'll just move the birds in. That's really about all I'm gonna do. Get the water cups full of water. I think I'll go ahead and fill up the feeder while I'm at it. It's not empty, but make sure it's good and full for them. That's probably good. Alrighty. And it's just a matter of grabbing birds and throwing them in. Hopefully none of them jump out while I'm at it. First time on wire, they're a little unsure of what's going on here. Woo! But they'll figure that out pretty quick. All right, so we got the first batch of birds out. Got the pharaohs, the jumbo pharaohs in their hutch. Doesn't look like any of them have figured out where the water is yet. I'll watch them for a minute or two there. See them jumping around a little. I don't know if you guys can see that in the camera. Let me move it closer. There we are with the baby birds out in the grow out pen. It's gonna take them a little bit to get used to that, out in the wind and out in the weather. New hutches, first time they're on wire. They're a little confused. It looks like a couple of them have already figured out where the food is, but none of them have figured out where the water is yet. So what I'll do is I'll watch these guys pretty close. Like I said, my biggest concern is them figuring out where the water is, make sure they know how to use those water cups. I'll come out and fill those water cups up a couple of times throughout the day. And as long as none of them just rush to it whenever I fill them up, they're pretty much trained to it and they know how to use it. I'm going to give them a minute here just to make sure. You see a couple of the older birds coming out now. They're a little curious, like, what are these new creatures? But I've had really good luck with mixing younger birds at about 3 weeks in with the older birds. Haven't really had any problems with them beating them up or any of those kinds of things. So I'm pretty optimistic that these guys are going to do just fine. It's not really ever been much of an issue for me. All right, well, let's close them up. I got another box of birds to bring out. Well, I got all the birds moved out early this morning. It's later evening now. It's late evening now, actually. The sun's starting to go down. They've been out here all day long. The wind's died down a little bit, though. As you can probably tell, there's no more wind noise on the mic, hopefully. And just come out to check on them again, and they're all doing great. It looks like they figured out the water cups. I'll bring you in close and let you kind of see what's going on here. They're a little jumpy still when I get real close to the cage, but we'll see what we can see. You can see the babies and the adults are mixing in just fine with each other, no problem. They figured out the feeder over there, no problems, and they're all at the water cups. Hopefully you can see that. It's a little bit dark in there, but you might be able to see the babies are all over those water cups. They figured them out. They're getting drinks now, so shouldn't be a problem. They should be acclimating pretty well. They're actually calmed down quite a bit too. Go take a look at the meat makers. All right, pretty similar story here with the meat makers. The babies have figured out the water cups. They're over there drinking. Kind of a combination of me filling them up with water, I think, and then watching the other birds go over there and get a drink out of them. They figured out where it is. So that's good. That was the big thing I was worried about, is them finding water, but they figured it out. The adults aren't bothering them at all. They just don't really pay much attention to them. They just kind of treat them like other birds. I figured out how to get in and out of the sandboxes, so everything's good. So it looks like everything's going pretty well with them. You know, like I said at the start, we're not supposed to get any real cold weather over the next couple of days. It's supposed to be down, I think tonight the low is going to be like in the mid 50s. They've been in the mid 50s before. They're going to be fine with that. And then there is one night where it's going to get down to 40 a couple of days from now. We'll see how they do with that. They should be fine. It's not that much of a temperature change from, you know, the low 50s, which they've been in. So I think they're going to acclimate just fine to that. They're fully feathered out. Shouldn't be any problems with that. But I'll watch real closely and make sure I don't lose any of them during that point. But no heat lamps, nothing like that. These guys are good to go at this point. And again, I've had really good luck with mixing them in with older birds like this. Now, if you were to wait till these guys were 6, 8 weeks old and then try to combine them, you're almost always going to get some fighting that goes on. It just seems to be when they're at that breeding age, that's when the hormones cause them to just be more aggressive and fight and pick on the new birds that come into the flock. But when you mix them in when they're younger, it doesn't seem to bother them at all. They just seem to acclimate just fine. So again, what I'll do at this point is I'll let them grow out. I won't keep too close of an eye on which ones are the young ones, which ones are the old ones. Whenever they get to breeding size, when they get to processing size, then I'll just go through and I'll pick out the biggest birds, and I'll keep the biggest birds, probably keep about 10 hens and 2 roosters, and the rest of them will go and be processed and go for dinner. And I won't pay too much attention. I won't know really. I won't be able to tell the difference between the younger birds and the older birds. So I don't keep real close track of that. I've had some questions asked about how long do you keep your birds? When do you switch them out? You know, usually about 2 years. I try to make sure that I, switch all the birds out around once every 2 years, but I don't really keep that close of an eye on it. So there's a good chance, probably a likelihood, that I'm actually, getting them rotated out quite a bit earlier than that. These adults that I've got, these were just from the spring hatch. So there's going to be a lot of those that probably get processed with the next batch. If they're, not the biggest hens, not the biggest roosters, they don't get to stay. That's my criteria. I keep just the biggest ones because I'm looking for meat production out of these birds as well as eggs. Anyway, hopefully you guys learned something from this or enjoyed the video anyway. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, God bless.